Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where every week here on MMA Junkie, we take you on a quick spin through the week's news. I'm joined by the Vegas crew once again. John Morgan is here, Gorgeous George is here, and the devious and dastardly Goze is in the house as well. Let's get things kicked off straight away with Glover Teixeira, guys. Continued his superb form at the weekend when he submitted Thiago Santos to position himself as the number one contender for the UFC light heavyweight title. The only problem with that, of course, is the fact that we now have this discussion. Is he actually going to get that fight? Dana White stated just a week or so ago that the promotion is going to look to book Jan Blachowicz against Israel Adesanya in a champion versus champion match. Looking at Glover Teixeira's resume means he's a clear and worthy contender for the belt. But do you think the UFC will put the Adesanya Blachowicz fight on the back burner and do Blachowicz versus Teixeira instead? Or do you think they're going to go with Izzy? Feel free to let us know what you would do as well. We'll put 3 minutes on the clock and I'll put my teeth back in. John, you can kick off.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, listen, I almost hate to say this because what I would do if I was calling the shots is I would stick with Adesanya in the slot. No disrespect to Glover Teixeira because, as you said, I think his resume clearly shows that he's the number one contender right now, and I would hate to tell it to his face that I wasn't going to give it to him. I know he'd probably apologize to me as he was slapping me across the face because he's that nice of a guy, but I got to stick with Adesanya. I just think there's more star power in there, and I mean, at the end of the day, you're trying to generate revenue. You're trying to keep a business going. I think that's going to get people talking, a potential two-weight champion. Plus, that would potentially get us one step closer to putting Adesanya and John Jones together and kind of realizing that grudge match that you know is kind of floating out there, but you don't know exactly what the path is to get there. So I would definitely say, Glover, hang on. You get the winner. That could get complicated if John Jones does come back down, but you are definitely number one contender. You don't have to fight again. Maybe even get ready as a backup. He stays in the mix, but I just don't put him ahead of Israel Adesanya right now. Too much star power.
205-pound division has got a bit of juice to it right now. Everything seems to be picking up. Can they really afford to be moving things away and bringing in Adesanya, or do you think that is still the fight to make?
Well, I think this is one of the divisions that actually had some law and order to it a little bit. You know, it seemed like there was a recipe there. We had the number one contender fight, but before the fight even took off, they had plans for something else. So I don't know what to really do here, guys. I think it would be very scary if Glover did wait to see what happens. First things first, we got to see his health. You know, he was the victor in this fight, but did take some damage in this fight. And if you add the 2020 damage to it all accumulative, he probably needs to take a little bit of a rest, but it's a big gamble because what if he does that? And like John stated, what if they put the Izzy and Jan match together? And what if that doesn't go really in his way? There's a lot to deal with there. And he's getting older. If I'm him, I plead my case as much as I can. I cite the rankings, I cite my age, I cite my performances, and I try and get this fight sooner than later.
What do you reckon, George? You head up the MMA Junkie rankings panel. Do you go with the division and keep it in 205, or do you go with the bigger box office fight in this regard?
There's no doubt that the Izzy fight is the bigger box office fight, and the UFC just has two great options is what it boils down to, guys. Like Goze said, Teixeira was hinting at a possible facial break, broken bone or whatever. So we got to see where he stands with that. But let's say he's cleared. Man, part of me wants to run that back, but only if, after hearing Robert Whitaker on MMA Junkie, it turns out, guess what? He is ready to go. Then now we have a little bit of law and order, to borrow another term from Goze, in the middleweight division and in light heavyweight division. And I think with the frequency of fights that Jan Blachowicz and Israel Adesanya have been taking, it's possible we could see that matchup by spring if they both come out ahead.
Yeah, give me Teixeira, and give me Whitaker versus Izzy. Keep those divisions moving along. That's what we need, I think, heading into 2021. But guys, as well as Teixeira's great performance in the main event, Saturday's show in Vegas also featured one of the most gruesome-looking injuries we've seen in a while. Ramiz Brahimaj suffering a horrific-looking cut to the ear. I don't know how Kenny back in the heading backstage here is going to edit this together, but you might have a very nasty-looking picture on your screen right now. But you guys have all watched a ton of fights over the years, and I'm sure you've seen more than your fair share of nasty-looking injuries. We've all got one that we remember, that we're looking through the gaps in our fingers and we're recoiling. What was the one that really made you guys recoil the most? Don't go too graphic because we don't want to scare the viewers away, but we'll put 2 minutes on the clock And Goze, you can be first off the rank with this one.
Well, I think I'm going to go with the low-hanging fruit here, guys. I mean, look, the year practically obliterated, but I think we all felt like he'd still be able to hear. It's probably going to get reattached, and with some time, it'll heal. But the Anderson Silva leg break was something that I'll never forget. To see one of the baddest men in the planet screaming like that in pain, just not knowing if he'll even come back to fight ever again, let alone if he'll be able to walk properly. There's so many things, infection that you have to fight off. It was just such a scary moment in our sport at that time. I don't think I'll ever be able to get that out of my head. And to this day, I see leg kicks that are being checked, and I always cringe a little bit.
Yeah, it was absolutely horrific to see live. George, what's top of your list?
Well, that one obviously probably is up there because of the magnitude. It involved one of the all-time greats. I happened to be there in person. But, when you're there in person, if you don't have a seat like my man John Morgan, you're kind of doing this little rubberneck thing. What happened? What happened? Looking at the screen. Whereas Corey Hill, when it happened, it was replay after replay after replay. Plus, he's got that lanky figure. So when that look, it was like a twig. You know what I mean? It just, I don't know, maybe it registered a little bit more with me. And I don't know what John's going to say, but if he leaves me a little bit of time, we also saw one at Tough Enough. That was pretty gruesome too.
Man, I got to be honest. Those two leg breaks, man, those are the ones that are up there for me. There's something about those. The late Corey Hill, man, that one stuck with me for a long time. The way he kind of tried to step back and plant on that broken leg, it was terrible. So that one always stuck out to me. And as Goze said, the Anderson stuff, man, just the guy it was, and seeing an all-time great screaming in pain was a tough one. And shout out, how about a little honorable mention to Matt Mitrione's hematoma, man. That's one of the worst hematomas I've ever seen. And let me just say, Brahima, I think that's the worst when it comes to ears that I've ever seen. So, man, some nasty ones to think about.
Yeah, it's the broken arms that get me. I don't know what it is. The Tim Sylvia one always gets me whenever I see the replay of that. But I think the one that always used to get me was the Kimura Frank Mir on Big Nog. It was unbelievable, and just the sudden jolt. It's the jolt that does it for me every single time. Absolutely horrible. These guys are the toughest men and women in sport, no doubt about it. Guys, let's move things along. Chatting to MMA Junkies, Danny Segura on the Hablemos MMA podcast this week. UFC Women's Flyweight Champion Valentina Shevchenko said that a trilogy fight with two-division champ Amanda Nunes would be very logical. Now, if both champions come to the next title defense unscathed whenever they are, will it be time for the UFC to book Nunes versus Shevchenko 3? And if they do, are any of you guys backing Bullet to get the job done third time around? We'll do 2 minutes on the clock for this. And George, you can go first.
Well, yeah, here's the deal, guys. We know that Nunes, as of about 2 hours ago, is out of her matchup versus Megan Anderson. But I don't think that necessarily messes too much with the eventual plans of them to just have to meet up. Luckily, one of them wasn't with the title at stake, and I think that helps out a little bit when you're trying to sort out the division. But both ladies have been dominant, so you could sell me on that third fight. Had they both been for title shots, then I think there would have to be a little bit more of a break. But it better happen quick, because something tells me Amanda Nunes probably only has a few fights left before she exits.
John, is that a fight that we need to see sooner rather than later?
I don't think so. And I think George touched on it there a little bit. I don't know how much Amanda Nunes has left in the tank. She's already kind of teased retirement a little bit. She's got the family going now. So because of that, I don't know that we necessarily need to revisit that fight. Not that I wouldn't be up for it. I mean, Valentina Shevchenko is incredible. To me, they're 1A and 1B in terms of women's pound for pound. But I'll tell you what I'm excited about. Kayla Harrison making the move over to Invicta and making the move down to 145 pounds. Now that she's competing in featherweight, I see that maybe there's a little crossover opportunity. Not that they would be a co-promotion, but maybe Kayla can end up in the UFC. That's a fresh test and a different kind of test that I would love to see for Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, it's a huge fight. Goze, what do you reckon?
Well, I think first things first is we want to see how Valentina rebounds from this injury. We've never really seen her have to go through something like this. So let's see how she comes back. And with Megan Anderson and Amanda Nunes kind of split apart for now, I think that's going to leave a little bit of a gap. Should Valentina get a victory, I don't know that she wants to sit around. I think she wants to make up for lost time. So I think whatever it is that she does do from here on out, it's got to be destructive to make us want to see Amanda Nunes and her fight that third time. The fans will always be there, but you want to sell it. You want her to do the exact same thing that Amanda Nunes is doing on the other side. Would I back her? I could back her, but it's really hard to go against Amanda Nunes at this point.
Yeah, I think Shevchenko definitely the one who's pushed Amanda Nunes the furthest, I think, in her title defenses over the recent years. Now, guys, to finish things up, Thursday night sees us turn our attention to the fight sphere as the Bellator featherweight Grand Prix resumes action at Bellator 252. Champ Patricio Pitbull puts the title on the line in the main event against Pedro Carvalho, while Daniel Vital and Emmanuel Sanchez face off for the right to face the winner for the belt in the semis. So to finish things up this week, guys, give us your take on those two quarterfinal matchups and give us your overall pick for that Bellator featherweight tournament crown. We'll put 2 minutes on the clock to finish off. John, lead us off.
Let me just say, man, I love the Grand Prix. I really do. I hope Bellator keeps doing them. I wish they'd move a little faster. I mean, of course, they get an excuse in 2020 with COVID and all that. I just wish they would wrap up a little bit faster. But I love it, and I love the fact that the title's on the line the whole time through the tournament. So keep up with the Grand Prix. As far as this weekend, I like Pitbull. I like Emmanuel Sanchez moving on. I like AJ McKee as the dark horse in the finals from the other side. I think we're going to see AJ McKee and Pitbull in the finals. And, man, I've been high on AJ McKee for a long time, man. If he can complete this, I think that'd put him at about 18-0 and a champ in Bellator, a Grand Prix champ as well. I think that would be a huge moment for him. That's the fight I'm hoping materializes. That's what I'm predicting we're going to see.
Goze, stare into your MMA crystal ball. Give us some picks.
Listen, Pitbull's on a hell of a run right now. What he's done is actually pretty amazing, and the skins he has on his wall, those are hard to beat. The thing is, I don't know that if we look at Carvalho's skins on his wall, they don't really match up to what Pitbull's doing. So I think Pitbull's going to win this fight. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I think he'll advance. And then when you look at Weichel and Sanchez, I think it's going to be a mirror image of that first fight. I think they're really going to go at each other. I think it's going to be a really, really fun fight. But I have Weichel winning this one by a hair, another split decision probably. And when you look at the Bellator Grand Prix, the final, boy, would I love for it to be McKee and Pitbull. I think it's going to go that way. And if you ask McKee, that's the way he sees it as well. But he sees himself as the winner. He's durable. He's a tournament-type guy. I got him in this.
George, wrap it up for us. Give us your picks for that Bellator featherweight Grand Prix.
I think Sanchez evens the score, so he'll advance. I think Pitbull Frady will defend his belt and also advance. And overall, I think we are going to see a Pitbull McKee final. Those are just two clearly the best featherweights, on the Bellator stable. Heck, you could argue that they're two of the top featherweights in the world, period. But, guys, here's a prediction that I have somewhat on the lines, and I don't wish injury upon anybody, but with COVID and everything going on, I just think Aaron Pico now is very far removed from some of those losses. I think he might sneak in there at some point. He could make some noise.
He's back in action as well this week, Aaron Pico. So keep an eye out for him. That's all we've got time for on Spinning Back Clique this week. A big thank you, as always, to John, to George, and to Goze. Big shout out to Kenny behind the scenes for running the show as well. Bellator 252 Thursday night. One championship on Friday morning. UFC Fight Night 182 from the Apex on Saturday. Packed slate of fights, guys. We'll have coverage of all three. So be sure to check out MMA Junkie all week long as we keep you bang up to date on all the goings on. Enjoy the fights this week, guys, and we'll be back next week.
Hey sports fans, if you want to see more videos like this, check out some of our other ones right here. And if you like what you see, make sure to hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more from USA Today Sports.